Hello, extra time.
They're important to the league not to get a hoy because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you.
Simple enough. They're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit to the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Extratime Football Podcast. Your host Luke Jordan. Delighted to say Donal, Ryan and Oisin Langan with me again. Lads, how are we?
How are you?
Coming up later on, we chat to Sligo Rovers, Reece Hutchinson about his time in the league and his career to date. But first, let's review the action from the SSE Electricity League, starting with the Premier Division results from last weekend. First off, was Jot United 1, Waterford 4, Shelbourne 2, Shamrock Rovers 1, big win for Shells in Talca Park. St Patrick's 0, Bohemians 1, Dundalk 0, Galway United 2, and Sligo Rovers 0, Derry City 0 on Saturday night. In the first division, we had Cove Ramblers 3, Athlone Town 3, UCD 0, Treaty United 1, Finn Harps 1, Cork City 1, Kerry 2, Bray 3, and Wexford and Longford Town was postponed. And only one place really to start as we record on Monday evening. That's the Dublin Derby that took place in Inchicore last Friday night. Oisin, I'll turn to yourself as you were commenting on the game for LOI TV. Before you go start with the off the field nonsense first, the game was marred in controversy with protests that got out of hand as flares were thrown on the pitch. Flares were hit by flares from the away end. Oisin, every fan has their right to protest in any way, but unfortunately the protests did get out of hand.
Well, the first thing I'll say is what I said in commentary. I can understand why fans want to protest, and I'd never stop fans protesting within reason, obviously. The way they did it was disgraceful, and I had to kind of hold my tongue on Friday night because as something is happening, you don't want to comment because there might be things and reasons, or there might be like when it's happening in real time in front of you, you don't necessarily know all the facts. But what it looked like turned out to be exactly what it was. Fans throwing players onto the pitch. Now, did they mean to hit the players? No. But when you throw it into a space where there's a crowd of players, there's a good chance you'll hit a player. And they did. And Cian Byrne needed treatment. So absolutely shocking behaviour. It does not represent the majority of Bohs fans. Most Bohs fans are horrified by this. I would love, if possible, to ban and maybe take more serious actions against those who threw those flares. I appreciate that there were flares on the pitch from the St. Pat's end, I think at the start of the game as well, or maybe at the start of the second half. But there's a big difference between throwing them onto the pitch where there are players and endangering the players like they did and what happened at the other end of the pitch. So there's nothing else you can say other than that was absolutely disgraceful behaviour, but it doesn't represent the majority of those people. It certainly doesn't represent the club, and I think the club have done about as much as they can do. They came out, they said this is not right. They said they won't contest the ban, and look, it's just something that I hope never to see again. And the thing about pyro is it does look great. There's no doubt about that, but it is dangerous. And I remember, and occasionally I'll go to games and I'll go to where the fans are because I think it's good to watch games from different angles, not just the press box. And I remember being very close to a flare and almost getting burnt last year, and it gave me a little bit of a fright. And I thought to myself, how are there not more serious incidents? So it is something that needs to be clamped down on. The thing is, and you know it yourself, when the authorities tell you not to do something, you're nearly more encouraged to do it. So it's about finding a way to keep everyone happy if you possibly can, using the cold flares, the cold pyro, the safe spot pyro, whatever way that works and however it can work. Let's try and do that. But it was just shocking scenes, terrible scenes.
And you hit the nail on the head there. I think from my angle, if where I stand in the games when I watched the games from as a fan perspective, I'm always on the left side of the camera, and you could visibly see there was Bohemian fans protesting and giving out to fans who threw the flares onto the pitch. So that's important to say as well. It's only a handful of individuals. It wasn't the whole section behind the goal in the shed end. You could see it visibly. There's a few people having word of people, and again, for at one stage, looking at the game might be postponed and abandoned, and you don't want that. Like that kind of stuff is. I think we're all in agreement with Leave Ireland fans that the game is on such a upward curve, and these instances you hope are just kind of blips along the road, because you don't want this creeping into the game, that kind of thing. And that's important to say. But on the ban itself, like, I suppose my only issue I have with the ban is I totally agree there should be a ban, or there should be a partial, whatever, fans not being allowed to go to games. But is it fair and Drogheda to be affected with away gate machine? Like, that's the other issue now. Maybe Drogheda, they're not allowed to go to the away game, Weavers Park. Is that fair and Drogheda's gate to be down for that match?
No, it's not. And I saw estimates of somewhere between €7,000 and €8,000, possibly even more. And that's huge for a club like Drogheda, who are in the process of becoming part-time, but or who are in the process of becoming full-time, but who are part-time. But it's a huge amount of money for any club. There's no club in this league who could turn their nose up at that. Now, is there a way of compensating them? I don't know. Is there a process there? I don't know. My only hope is that I think when you buy a subscription for LOI TV, whether or not it's a season ticket or a one-off for a match, I think the home team gets money out of that. So my only hope is that those fans aren't allowed travel, so they'll buy subscriptions. But I still don't think that'll come close to covering what they would have gotten. It's effectively a punishment for Drogheda, who have done nothing wrong. Unless I'm missing something, unless there's some kind of compensation payment given to them, I hope that's the case. But like, they shouldn't lose out, and from what I can see, they are losing out.
Yeah, I think. Look, my own personal opinion would have been that it would have been a partial stadium closure for Bows in Derry Park the next home game, and that would have been a fair punishment. I don't think I agree personally with a full stadium closure. It'd be unfair on the good fans that are there, but sometimes it has to be consequence for actions. Just on the spectacle itself, Oisin, I suppose, wasn't the greatest game. I think obviously the one big incident in the game was the penalty incident. He had a much better angle than I, and just from him chatting off air there, reflecting on it, obviously 3 days later, you still believe that definitely wasn't a penalty?
I think it wasn't a penalty. I think the goalkeeper got something on it, and I appreciate, and I said this in commentary, winning the ball is not a smoking gun argument in football anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time. But I've watched it back several times, and he did get something on it. Pitalogu's problem is he kind of looked guilty. I think if that's a more experienced keeper, they just come out, they deal with it, and they kind of keep going like nothing happened. Whereas he came out and he kind of looked like, am I about to give away a penalty here? And I think that actually fed into the referee's decision. And I wouldn't blame the referee for that too much. He's only human, and humans react to other humans' reactions. And the Bows player flung himself on the ground. That was clever. I'd want my player to do it. You'd admire him for doing it. Paddy Barrett did the same thing against Shamrock Rovers. He was foul in the box for the penalty, but he exaggerated the fall. And you want your player to do that. So, look, I appreciate it was a tough call for Rob Hennessy, because we had to look at it 5 or 6 times in the on the replays, and even after that, I couldn't say with absolute certainty that it wasn't. But my feeling is it wasn't. Keith Tracy, who was on co-commentary, fell on the side of it. Probably wasn't a penalty. In fairness to John Daly, he didn't whinge about it too much after the game. He said he hadn't seen it really, and he said you'd probably know more. But he did not put the loss down to just conceding that penalty, in fairness to him, when he could have made a bigger deal of it than he did, but he didn't. But for me, it wasn't a penalty.
We were saying off the air as well, Oisin, that, look, I was saying to you, where I was standing, to be honest, you kind of mentioned the smoke and gun, the way Pitalogue would have stopped, it just looked like it was going to be a penalty. You obviously had a better angle in the press box or up in the gantry. So I I understand why Hennessy gave a decision. My kind of annoyance, maybe, which I mentioned to you earlier on, was the Mason Mealy one. I think that's like, it's soft penalty if it's given, but that's a body check, and you do a body check anywhere else in the pitch, bar the box, it's a free kick. So again, I think Pats can maybe find themselves a little bit harshly done there. Would you agree?
Yeah, look, it probably was a penalty. It's a body check, it's a collision. But it's in a crowd of bodies, so I have sympathy for the referee. And again, from the Pats' point of view, if you're looking at those decisions and saying, well, that's why we lost the match, then you're looking in the wrong place. So was it a penalty? Probably. Do these things even themselves out over the course of the season? I genuinely believe they do. But yeah, like it probably was a penalty, but that isn't why Pats didn't get anything out of the game, not getting that penalty.
Last one on Pats then, the 3-5-2 shape. I'm always a believer, whenever Pats played 3-5-2 at home, I don't think it suits the size of the pitch, the stadium. I don't know what it is. I just don't think that maybe the pitch is big enough to play. I think it's quite easy to defend against, maybe in a low block like Bowes did in the night, where clearly set up the hit and the break with their kind of 4-3-3, 4-4-2 shape on the break. What do you think? Am I reaching there, or do you think maybe there's a valid argument that maybe not play 3-5-2 in Richmond Park?
Well, I'll say a couple of things about this. It's early in the season, so teams are still finding their way. They're still gelling. That's a formation that might work, but it might take a wee while. And they might say, right, we've had a go at it, and now we know what went wrong with the formation. There was times where Pats came forward and then went backwards or killed the attack. They didn't kind of break any lines. They didn't play it early enough. They didn't maybe get Levy out wider to try and get crosses in or make something happen out wide. And it was something that Keith Tracy picked up on a couple of times in commentary. He said that they're playing inverted wingers and maybe they need to get out wider. Maybe they need to start trying getting down the pitch and get crosses in. Keating, and I think he's going to be a success at St. Pat's this season. Had a couple of half chances, but he was isolated for long periods in that game. So it needs a bit of tweaking. Funnily enough, and it's easy to say this afterwards, I thought maybe that formation suits you better if you go to Dalymount Park, or maybe they do kind of go with more traditional style wingers if they're in a wider pitch. But maybe that's something they should have done at home. But of course, these are things that are very, very, very easy to say. But look, Keith Tracy summed it up nicely when he said there probably wasn't enough width in St. Pat's. But it's early in the season, and maybe that'll come. The good teams, well, all teams can take a while to settle.
I suppose the main takeaway with the match was, though, in fairness, Bohemians 3 points on the board. Especially after I suppose a lot of criticism the last week from multiple podcasts, multiple media outlets criticised maybe the lack of signings. That was a big win for them.
A massive win for them, and they were really good. Like McManus made the team of the week. That's no surprise given how hard he battled. McDonald, he was like the Energizer Bunny. He's a good footballer, but he can get around the pitch as well, and he's very good on the ball. James Clark, I had a chat with him afterwards. That was for the Extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast. Very nice lad, but also knows how to use the ball, and very often got it with his back to goal as in the opposition goal, but turned and used it well. Connolly up and down the wing. Rooney always providing a threat. Ryancourt looks like he could hold up the ball. And to be fair, Jordan Flores as a makeshift centre back, what a job he did. Now, maybe sometimes you're better off having a player like Flores in that more withdrawn position from where they normally are, because they actually have more time to spray the ball around and to use the ball well. But look, there wasn't anyone in the Bulls team who you'd say played well. They all worked hard. They all put in a shift, and they earned that result. They really did. And there was a couple of blocks, and how Redmond didn't get the goal at the end, I don't know, but I think it was Flores who was on the ground but got his heel to it. They just scrapped for every inch, and they worked incredibly hard, and they were really good. And now they've got these new signings coming in, and on the face of it, they look like really good signings. And we had a good long debate about this last week as to whether or not, and again, I'll repeat, I don't know who Bowes did or didn't go for, but if they didn't get them and they got these guys because they didn't get the guys they really wanted, these are still good signings. But maybe they were monitoring these players all the way along, and they, for whatever reason, just were a little bit later in getting them. I don't know. Either way, they look like good signings. But ultimately, we're only 2 games in, so let's not get too carried away yet. But Bowes deserved their win. They worked hard. They kept their shape. But it wasn't just bang it over the top when we get it back in our own defence. They actually worked it through the middle, and they've got some good players. And we obsessed on, and it's easy to say this after they won a match, we kind of obsessed on their defence last week, and I'm guilty of this more than anyone. What I didn't look at was up the pitch. And when you look at McDonald and McManus playing beside each, I'm looking at the transfer mark formation. It's not necessarily the most accurate thing all the time for League of Ireland, but it gives you some clue. You've McDonald and McManus kind of sitting deep as a 2. You've got Clark, you've got Connolly out wide, Rooney wide, and Ryancourt up top. Now, obviously, that formation fluctuates a bit during a game, and it depends on whether you have the ball or don't have the ball. But when they had the ball on the transition, they looked really good, and they looked like they had players who could do damage. So, a really good performance, a really good win for both.
Just to back that up, Oisin, as well, just talking about the signings, obviously, of course, we did go on a bit of a rant about how weak they were at the back last week. But with the amount that they brought in, Luke Matheson, to me, that's a huge signing for Bowes. I was kind of keeping an eye on their transfer activity late on the deadline. And when I saw them announcing him, I was very surprised because he's a player like, obviously there was a lot of hype about him when he was at Rochdale and scoring at Old Trafford or whatever. But to come down from Bolton Wanderers on loan, albeit only a short loan until June, I think it is. And I'm open to correction on that as well. But the fact that you can get him in the door in the first place is promising. He's going to be a big help for them at the back. I'm not too sure about the rest of the signings, but it was a good Jevon Mills from Hull City seems to have a bit about him as well. But you were just talking about further up the field as well. I think Bohs would probably now, as it happens, would be the only team that all three of us have seen in person, because I was in Dalymount Park for the opening game of the season, and James Clark is like the energizer, as you said. He was the standout player for them in Dalymount when they took on Sligo Rovers, and of course you spoke to him afterwards as well. And Reincourt I thought was very impressive, particularly in the first half in the first game. I'm not sure about how he fared against St. Pat's, but certainly looks like he can be a threat. And now the Bohs have bolstered their defence a little bit with those 4 arrivals on deadline day, it'll allow Flores to move back into the middle of the park as well, where he can do all kinds of damage, So looks like Bohs might be a little bit more stable, as we said. Like, they were probably looking to bring in loads of players. We don't know who they were looking at.
Well, I mean, there's still a question mark as to whether or not these players will just get a running start. But they look like they could. Like Keita has played 35 MLS games, is an ex-USA under-20 player. Now, he has had injuries in the last year, and I think there's a clause in the contract where basically he can be recalled at any time. But if he gets fit, in theory, he should be an excellent player. Luke Matheson is only 21, has already played for Bolton this season, played five times for Bolton this season, scored a goal, and as you mentioned, scored that goal for Rochdale against Manchester United in the League Cup in 2019. They actually only lost that game on penalties. And he recently signed a new deal with Bolton, so obviously they think something of him. So he's a right back. Keita is a left-sided centre back. Piszczek looked good when he came in. Lillander looked decent enough. There was times against Sligo where he kind of again played it square or backwards, but there was once or twice against Sligo where he actually hit diags, and they were decent looking balls. He did that a couple of times as well against Pats. And Jevon Mills, another player, he's on loan from Hull. Made an appearance in the Championship this season, had loan spells with Solihull and Gateshead, and is an Ireland under-19 international, or was, I should say, because he's 20 now. So it's funny. It's funny, lads. I feel like last week we're like, oh, everything is down for Bohs, whereas this week I'm like, yay, everything is up for Bohs. But if that defence comes right, because that back four that they played on Friday, did their job on Friday, but you wouldn't want that to be your back four for this season. But if those signings work out, then they could be decent. And by the way, as well, credit to Cian Byrne, because he is probably the only natural centre half that they had up until they signed other defenders. And he actually played really well. And I kind of felt bad after the podcast last week when we were talking about Bohs that we didn't really mention him. And he's a decent young defender. He played really well on Friday night. He's only 21. I think that was only his 13th, 14th appearance for Bohs. And he lost Rob Cornwall, and he would have been a real guy to him. But in fairness, Cornwall is still around the group and still kind of supporting the lads, as James Clark said in the interview. So they still have Cornwall's expertise. And Declan Devine actually got quite emotional nearly when he was talking about Cornwall and said, we wanted to do it for Rob tonight. And keep in mind, they're still without Keith Buckley. So we're probably overcompensating on Bohs. And funnily enough, for all the talk about the criticism of Bohs last week, I was nearly insulted, lads, that the people talking about it on Twitter didn't mention us specifically. And when I said, oh yeah, well, maybe I was a bit harsh, they said, well, actually, I meant LOI Central. So I was like, okay, let's be controversial this week and get ourselves some mentions on social, lads.
A week's a long time in football, lads. It's amazing what happens with one win. Everyone, last week it was depressing about Bohs. This week it's all positive. Don't really quick then, obviously Sligo first home game, full house in Showgrounds. Decent point.
Yeah, very good point, Luke, against Derry City. And Derry City didn't score a goal in the Showgrounds at all last year, and that's continued into 2024, which I'm sure Sligo Rovers contingent listeners will be very happy about. 4,300 about was the attendance in the Showgrounds on Saturday evening. I don't remember as big an attendance as that for a long time. I'm not sure even the European games got that big a crowd, but again, I'm open to correction on that. But 4,300 really sticks out to me as a almost record attendance in recent times, anyways. But yeah, a very good point for Sligo Rovers. It was just looking at some of the stats from the game and to delve into the XG. I think the combined XG for both teams was like 0.8 or something, which was quite low, and would suggest that no matter if the game went on all night, that maybe both teams wouldn't have scored. Ed McGinty came up with a big save right at the death from Daniel Kelly, just doing what Ed McGinty does, really, probably the best keeper in the league, if you ask me. And I'm saying that with my Sligo Rovers hat on as well. Like he's absolutely fantastic. And he'll win more points for Sligo Rovers this year, just given with the standard of keeper that he is. But yeah, a 0-0 draw in the Showgrounds, just 2 points on the board for Sligo Rovers in games that people probably would have expected them to lose before a ball was kicked this year. So I think they'll be pretty happy with where they're at the moment.
A quick word then on Derry City, I suppose. Again, more off the field noise coming out of the club today. On Monday to record, they've reached an agreement with the FAI, seems, Donal.
Yeah, for the next few games anyway, the games they're expecting bigger attendances for. I think they've reached an agreement with the FAI and stuff that they'll allow 190 away fans in, certainly for their next game against St. Pat's on Friday night. That'll be the attendance anyway. This follows up, I suppose, the controversial opening game of the season where they'd only 75 tickets on offer to Drogheda United. Now, clubs are required by the FAI to give a minimum 10% allocation of their overall capacity to the away fans, and Derry didn't do that on the first game of the season. They said that they had the blessing of the FAI to do that, but the FAI since came out and said that they hadn't, and they were required to give the full 10%. So there's been a bit of a controversy around it in the opening weeks of the season. But the next few games, including St. Pat's, Shamrock Rovers, and Bohemians, they're expecting bigger crowds for those ones. So they've agreed to allocate 190 away tickets to those clubs, and say in the statement as well that they've been in contact already with other clubs, including Waterford, Galway United, and Dundalk, to negotiate an allocation. So that would imply that they're going to have a slightly lesser away allocation than the 190. But as I say at the end of the statement, you have to just keep an eye on their social media and on their website to get more information on that. And I think it's fair enough, to be honest. I think 75 away tickets is an insult. I mean, Drogheda are, I suppose, they're on their crest of a wave, really, at the moment. Great season last year. Bad defeat for them at the weekend, albeit. But, they certainly are a club on the up and looking to move full-time and all that. And just to get offered 75 tickets, I know Derry City is a...
Was there a demand for more, Donal?
For the St. Pat's game, Oisin, is it?
No, for Drogheda. Like, would Drogheda have taken more than 75 if they got them?
Well, I'd imagine so.
Okay.
I can't say for sure, as not from the Drogheda camp, but I think 75 is very low. And just as I was about to say there, like, even though Derry is very far away from most clubs and certainly is some distance from Drogheda, it would be, you'd expect Drogheda to bring up a couple more than 75 for a game. Although it's hard to travel to the long distances on Friday nights, as I know, is from a Sligo Rovers perspective anyway. But I think 75...
It's a horrible drive as well, Derry, unless, of course, you go the new route up by Belfast and then over the McShane Pass. Is it called the McShane Pass? I could have that wrong. You pass Mahara anyway. But yeah, I have a certain element of sympathy for Derry because they are trying to rebuild, but at least now they're engaging with clubs and saying, okay, how many do you think you'll bring? This is what we can give you. And they are trying. It'll never be, and this is a great thing. Remember, lads, this was not an issue a couple of years ago, whereas now it is an issue where clubs are not getting enough tickets, and that's great for the league. It will only last so long. Eventually, the facilities will have to catch up, or else people will find another sport to go to. But this is all great publicity for the league. Clubs rowing over you're not giving us enough tickets, or clubs saying, "Look, we're sorry, we don't have enough away tickets for you, but this is why we're rebuilding." It's great.
Yeah, I agree. It is.
Not that that's any compensation if you want to go and you can't get a ticket, of course.
It is a positive, I suppose, that is a positive way of looking at it. But I think what they did in just allocating just 75 tickets in the first game was probably a little bit of an insult to Drogheda United, just speaking from my own personal opinion.
Yeah, and look, the Two things that I suppose to add to the statement. It looks like they're providing a terrace area for away fans. That seems to be the thing. I think the issue was initially they were in the original block and that was reduced. That's why it was only 75 to 80 tickets. Now it seems to be there's going to be a terrace. I think that's kind of the plan, or temporary terrace. My only issue with all this is, as I said, it's Monday. Pats fans tickets went on sale on the portal there just about an hour ago. Like that's a quick turnaround now for fans. They only get guaranteed they have a ticket now, and now they have to plan their journey to Derry for 4 days. I think that turnaround had to be much quicker. This decision's been made a week ago. And I think it's a bit of an insult to fans again on Monday, Tuesday morning now to try and decide how they're going to get to Derry and back again. Look, in a week with the FEI has had problems. I don't want to throw more in, but again, they did this kind of idea.
Generally speaking, Luke, when would you know as an away fan that you're first of all going to a game, and second of all, when can you buy your tickets from generally?
Any away game I go to, usually the portal. I'm always hopeful I get it 10 days beforehand. Like, you think 10 days is a fair turnaround if you're going to go to a game, especially if it's like, look, if you're in Dublin, it's fine. But if you're going down to Sligo, you're going to Galway, especially Derry. I just mentioned it already. Derry's the furthest place to get to. You know, it's like Cork is a further journey in terms of it's a nice one to get to down the M7. So, like, again, that's only my personal opinion. I just think that it's not fair on fans.
Look, I appreciate it's frustrating, but you also have to appreciate that Derry are genuinely in the middle of works here that will improve the stadium and could well lead to more tickets being available for away fans in time. And that is no consolation to people who have been hanging on and don't know. I get that, but I wouldn't be too hard on them.
No, I don't think I'm not trying to have a go at the club. I'm more, again, sorry the FEI, but I think this all should have been dealt with 6 weeks ago. This shouldn't be happening when the season is just kicked off and there's still issues around the way allocation. Like, why? Everyone knows the 10% rule. Everyone knows you have to offer 10% of an away allocation. Why the week before the season kicked off were Derry announcing that, we actually can't give 10%? Like, this all should have been clarified January, December conversation. So again, it comes back to poor communication between either the FEI or Derry City or whatever the case may be. Again, I just think we're trying so hard from our perspective in the media, people on the pitch, people involved in football clubs, to bring the game to a more professional level here. And then we see instances like this creep up the odd time. Yeah. It's just bad publicity when it's so unnecessary.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, and of course have sympathy. But there's a couple of things I'd say. I wonder, and I'm not speaking specifically about Derry here, we're still in a space where clubs maybe don't have the admin staff to back up what's actually going on the pitch. And I remember a couple of years ago talking to Stephen Finn, a great journalist. He's not working full-time in journalism anymore. He's actually not working in journalism at all. And him saying, it's all well and good to have paid players, but if you don't have people in the office, then it's possibly no good to you. Now, I'm repeating, that is not specific to Derry. I'm saying that. I'm saying every club probably needs a bit more backup. B, I think that their rebuilding and the actual planning and all that actually came through quite late, and they're trying to do it in a big hurry because they want to play European games. So maybe a couple of weeks ago, they wouldn't necessarily have known. Now, could they have flagged it? Yes. But then if they flagged it, would fans say, well, you're leaving us you're leaving us with uncertainty here. The FAI/league, maybe they weren't told, maybe they didn't know, maybe it's just like the club themselves. They were kind of caught late by how late these works were actually planned. So there's all sorts of factors here. And of course, you're right. Ideally, you would have this communicated to fans, but it's all this kind of stuff. It's not just on the pitch where the league needs to, wants to grow and improve and is improving, of course, but it's all this kind of stuff as well. So I have as someone who organizes projects, I have a level of sympathy for them.
Oisin, before we go, quick word on the Shells and Rovers game. Big win for Damien Duff in that game's first win over Shamrock Rovers.
Really good game, really entertaining match. As I said earlier on, Paddy Barrett played really well, and Shells look a better team with him in there. John O'Sullivan looks like a player transformed. That's something he himself has talked about, to be fair to him. And a great sound off the match as well. Sometimes you watch a match or listen to a match and it sounds like people aren't that enthusiastic, even if there's a big crowd. But this had the crowd and it had the sound of a great atmosphere. And Stephen Bradley after the game said he's kind of, I don't think he's pleased with how they've started. And someone said, yeah, but you started slow this time last year as well. And the inference was Yeah, but I'm still annoyed. And maybe we in the media think this is a double bluff. We're starting slow, but I think Bradley's very much trying to put the message across of we're not doing this on purpose. So yeah, really good match. I really enjoyed it, I have to say. And by the way, 3 of the starting back 4 for Bulls could start when they have everyone fit. I was harsh on Lillander, Byrne, and Kirk. Flores is the only square peg in a round hole there. The rest of them could make a very good back 3/back 4 with an addition of an actual defender.
Lads, thanks very much. Coming up next, we chat to Reece Hutchinson from Sligo Rovers, so stay tuned.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland or tweet us at Extratime News.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the second half. Donal Ryan still alongside me. Delighted to welcome on Sligo Rovers Reece Hutchinson. Reece, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, all good. I suppose before we talk about the game of the weekend, how do you think the game went for yourselves?
Well, all the team are pretty happy with how we played, the performance. We was expecting quite a big crowd, so we just wanted to go out there, put on a show for them, show that we're playing for the badge, bit of desire, and thought we brought that to the table. Obviously, it's a 0-0 clean sheet for both sides, but I think it took us quite a long time last season to get our first clean sheet, so to get that off our back early doors is pretty good, especially being a defender as well. That's my first job to keep a clean sheet. Then whatever else I do is a bonus.
And Reece, we're only 2 games into the new season and you've already matched your goal tally from last season. You must be pretty happy with that as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy, even if it did come off my shin, but they all count. It's gone down as my goal. But no, it's probably the dream start, to be honest, to score in your first game away from home as well, in a pretty hostile place. So yeah, I'm pretty buzzing with that.
Yeah, and just on that game at Dublin Park as well, obviously there's been a big build-up to the new season. Obviously you were pretty happy to score and get Rovers back into the game, essentially. But how's the build-up to the season been? Obviously there's been a lot of change at the Showgrounds in both personnel, like on and off the field as well. So how has the build-up been this so far this season?
Yeah, to be honest, well, the build-up's been great. Pre-season, it's always long, it's hard, it's challenging. But we prepare as much as we can. The staff, the players, the manager gives us all the information, what to expect coming into the season, our expectations, where he expects us to finish, where we're going to improve from last season, and everything else really. And we've had a lot of new players this season, so it's going to take time for us to gel. But even as hopefully the fans can see, the early signs are positive. There's a lot more hunger in the team, a lot more youth. Energy, just an aggression all over the pitch. Sometimes I think we was lacking it last season. So I feel like we've got that real desire this year to do well.
Yeah, Reece, just on the kind of, I suppose, maybe before the start of the season, a lot of maybe media were kind of putting Sligo over, saying poor season last year, possibly this year they might struggle. As players, do you just block out that noise, or maybe do you take it in and go, do you know what, use that as motivation now to show people what they were wrong about us this year?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, to be fair. Obviously, you try not to read too much on social media, but you do see the odd comment saying that we're favourites to go down. But honestly, we all thrive off that. And nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes here, what you see in training, all the players' abilities. And hopefully you've seen it already, that we're really going to be challenging near the top of the end of the table this season.
Reece, obviously, as we mentioned there, it was a difficult season in many different aspects for Sligo Rovers last year. What was that like for you coming into a brand new league and then kind of being sucked into what turned out to be a relegation battle in the end? And of course, loads of players leaving at the end of the season. What was the dressing room like? Was there a lot of tension there, or how did you find coming into that kind of scenario?
Well, I was here pretty early doors. I was here the beginning of last season's pre-season as well. So I know the expectations. I know what the club was all about coming into it. Obviously, I'd never played in the Irish League, and that was obviously going to be a challenge for me to get going. At the start, I was just thinking about how personally I can affect the games, and then as I went along, obviously, I wanted to pick up results for the team because I know it's massive. But I was still on loan at the time, so I was just trying to impress, obviously, the gaffer here and also back home. But then, as soon as I signed, I had one focus, and that was to keep the club up and in the Premier Division next season, because I knew I was going to be here. But to be honest with you, all the lads last year were great. We had a really good, quite close group. I just feel like we lacked a bit of belief sometimes, and the nerves got to us. There's quite a few mistakes, but no, I think the actual group we had was good.
And you just touched on your brief loan spell. As it turned out, you made that permanent halfway through the season last year as well. Was that always your ambition once you got over on loan to try and seal a permanent deal for yourself, or did you ever have any intentions of heading back to Cheltenham?
To be honest, at the beginning, I just wanted to come over and play football. The gaff here knew what I was all about. He said that I'll play games here, and as the season went on, I'd really started to enjoy myself. Like, I like the beliefs here. I actually like Sligo as a place as well, the town, the fans, and I was becoming quite a crucial part of the team, which I hadn't felt that sort of belief in me since, say, my Burton Albion days. So obviously that was a big impact in why I chose to sign. But also just the whole team, the place, the environment, it was a real buzz to me.
And I suppose your move to Sligo Rovers kind of was the start of like a bit of an unofficial link between the club and Cheltenham Town as well. Aidan Keane went over just as you signed for Sligo Rovers, and I believe you played your part in Ellis Chapman coming over as well.
Yeah, well, the gaffer sometimes asks about players back home. Obviously, I played in League One and at quite a good level, so he does look into that market as well sometimes. It just so happens that Ellis is one of my real close mates. We used to car share going into Cheltenham most days. So I'd drop him a few texts, little hints here and there to get himself over. Obviously, it wasn't like me. He wasn't sure at first because he didn't know what to expect. And but now he's over here. He's really relishing it, and he's loving life here.
Yeah, he certainly seems to have settled in well, but it must be good for you as well, having, like, as you mentioned, a close friend coming over to you playing and starting in the same team as well in another country. It must be great to see two friends doing that.
Yeah, 100%. That's another reason why I wanted him to come over, because like you said, it can get lonely. But with the lads here, we're all a young group, so we have a lot in common anyway. So we'd go out and do things together, and I feel like the bond's quite strong this year. Everyone gets along with everyone, and there's no real like bad eggs in the camp, if you say. But no, I think Ellis coming over is going to be a big boost. Also for him to have me here as well, because obviously I was here the whole of last year. So I was always the one that was going to be showing in the ropes what the football means to the town, the club, and also just showing around the place as well and what's to offer here.
Are you still car sharing to work?
No, we don't. He lives somewhere else. So he lives in the middle of town. I'm out in Colooney, so we don't car share. No.
What was your perception coming over to the League of Ireland? Because I suppose that's not quite a common question for lads coming into the league first time, like maybe not knowing much about it. I suppose maybe the stereotypical idea people might have is kind of maybe a direct football league, maybe historically would have been kind of South Irish football. But like, what was your own kind of perception coming into the league? Did you know anything about it?
To be completely honest with you, I didn't know too much about it. So when I got the call, I was a bit hesitant, but I spoke with the gaffer, John, and he put on a presentation for me. And to be honest with you, I was blown away just from that one presentation. I didn't know what the standard was going to be like. I didn't know the people, the place, or anything like that. So it's pretty daunting because I've lived at home my whole life, and I've just travelled to football from there. So to move away is quite outside my comfort zone sort of thing. But honestly, I've been so surprised just with the level as well, the standard. I'm shocked with like the level of standard in training and just the way everyone like conducts themselves is brilliant.
Is there any player in particular? You mentioned the standard there. Is there any player in particular you faced so far went, oof, he's not bad?
In the team or just in general?
Even playing against, say, is there a winger you thought maybe this guy's quite good?
Oh, yeah, there has been a few. I prefer going forward more than defending anyway, but who can I say? I would probably give it to McMullen, the guy that I played not long ago, Saturday. He's quite direct, quick. He'll always get to the byline and cause a threat. So yeah, I'd probably say him.
You mentioned your attacking aspect there. Were you a natural winger, maybe growing up through the Burton Albion Academy and drop back in, or were you always a fullback coming through?
I was pretty much always a fullback coming through, but they would always push me further forward. I'd play wing back, and also in the 10 position quite a bit. But that was also where I broke through, in the number 10 position, believe it or not. So that's where I scored all my goals, my assists. But yeah, no, I've always seen myself as an attacking threat, and no, that's what I like to do. Obviously, I knew coming over here, I was going to have to defend quite a bit with the direct play, but that's always something I wanted to improve on anyway. And I feel like I have started to do that this year. So,
when did you join the Burton Albion Academy? What age were you?
15.
And before that, were you just playing grassroots football, or did you have trials elsewhere with other clubs?
Yeah, so I joined West Brom at a young age. It was around the under 8s, I think, and then I went on there till it was about under 15s, and then I got released from there, which was a bit of a setback at the time. And then I took a whole year out of football. Actually, I remember it hit me quite hard. I didn't really know what direction to go in, and then it was my dad actually that got me back into a grassroots football team. So I played there for a year, and then got scouted by Burton Albion. They offered me a scholarship straight away. I was on trial for about 2 weeks out of the 6 weeks, and they offered me something, which I was pretty buzzing with. So then, it went on from there.
And you would have made your debut under Nigel Clough. Would that be right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I made my debut at 18.
And what was Nigel Clough like?
Yeah, to be honest, he's a brilliant man manager. He gets the best out of you. He's quite firm with his old school ways, but honestly, that's probably the best thing that could have happened to me.
And Reece, you made your debut against Aston Villa as well. As a self-confessed massive Aston Villa fan, you must have been absolutely over the moon that you got to play against the team you supported growing up.
Yeah, I think, was it pre-season I played against them?
I don't know. You tell me.
I think my debut was the pre-season game. I remember playing them, and we also played them in the cup as well. I think we did well both times actually. I think we beat them, and I think we beat them. Did we beat them twice? I think we beat them once and drew with them once. But yeah, honestly, that's a dream come true. My whole family's Villa fans, so yeah, that's probably buzzing for me.
It must have been a big thing for your family there as well, as you said. But does that kind of motivate you a bit more when you're playing against like the team that you supported? Like, because like I'd say it's a rare enough occurrence in football for that to actually happen. So like, what kind of a feeling is it? Like, how buzzed are you to participate in a game like that?
Oh yeah, honestly, it's games that like don't come around very often. So to just play in that sort of a game environment, to test yourself against the best players as well. Honestly, it's amazing.
Reece, was it difficult to leave Burton?
It was. I spent a lot of my childhood there. I made some good friends for life, and also some great coaches. Obviously, you always have a special spot for the club you made your debut for, so that will always be in my heart. But I just felt like the time was right. My contract was up, and I had opportunities to go elsewhere. So I think the time was right, and so I moved on.
Did you have a crossover with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank? Would there have been a crossover there when he took over?
There was a crossover. At the time, I wasn't playing as much as I would have liked to. So that's part of the reason why I got shifted on. But there was good 10 or 12 players that season that left when he came in. So I think there was a big shuffle in the squad anyway.
What was Hasselbank like as a coach when you had him for a brief period?
Yeah, no, it was always very very good around the place. He went into a lot of detail, a lot of meetings. But no, it's a good guy. It just didn't really fall for me really.
And Reece, you mentioned as well that you're living with Simon Power and J.R. Wilson, two other new signings into the club this year as well. Simon would probably be flitting between left and right as well, so that must be good for your relationship on the pitch as well, that you're living together and you're both predominantly playing on the same side of the field.
Yeah, of course. No, like I mentioned, they're two good guys as well. We'll get along great. We'll cook dinner for each other, and it's only little things, but you get a connection off that as well. But no, you end up spending a lot of time with each other, even if it's just watching, say, the football on the TV or just little things like that. But no, they're two very good people, and ones that I'm glad I'm rooming with.
And you mentioned that as well, that there seems to be a really close bond this year as well. Were you surprised, given that how many new faces came in? Were you surprised how quickly that all kind of clicked? I mean, it certainly seems to be showing like it's clicking on the pitch anyway, as the performances from the first two games have been very impressive, and I think the fans are quite happy with how things so far.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, the first week, even in pre-season, I was surprised with how everyone got along. Even just like when you're doing patterns of play and just formations and stuff, everyone just seemed to like just gel like straight away. The understanding, I don't know if that's because like we're all young and we're all eager to learn. But no, I think John's recruited really well this year, and he's gave us a real chance to fight at the top.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the age profile of the squad, as Simon Power is actually the oldest outfield player. So I'm not sure if he's aware of that, but could be.
No, yeah, I get on to him every day.
And you mentioned as well about players from other teams in the league that have impressed you. Was there anyone that came in this year, or anyone that might be still about the club, that you thought, wow, he's a proper player? Or
yeah, there is a couple. To be honest with you, Simon's been a revolution for us. He's quick, powerful, everything you'd want in a winger. I batter him every day about getting his first goal, because once he gets his first goal, he'll fly. Honestly, he's that good. I'd say Conor Malley as well. Very technical, gifted player. But also just the players that we've kept on as well from last year. Like I said, they're all young, hungry, and we had a real core here, and we all need to set an example for everyone coming in. You have your players like Reece Hutchinson, and then obviously you have your star striker come back, Max Matter, obviously Ed McGinty, and it just makes the team look a bit more intimidating as well. Hopefully that the teams are coming down to the showgrounds and just feeling intimidated, and they just feel like they can't win here. So that's the thing that we want to create here.
Yeah, John Russell certainly himself on trying to make the showgrounds a difficult place to go. Just in terms of your own career, Reece, obviously you're still young and have a good few years in the game ahead of you. Have you any ambitions to head back to the UK? Or obviously, I suppose Sligo Rovers might be your priorities now for this season, but long term, would you have be harbouring any feelings to go back over?
No, there won't be any bad feelings about going over. But to be honest with you, I want to see where this season goes. I haven't had many seasons where I've completed the whole season through injuries or breaks in play or something like that. So I want to get a good 36 games under my belt and go from there. I know if I play to my potential, I've got a real good chance in the game. But as long as I'm in Sligo, I'll give everything for the shirt and hopefully make Europe this year, which is a real aim of mine.
Yeah, Reece, that was actually one of my questions I was going to ask you. Have you set a target as a team, or just even personal targets yourself? That you just mentioned Europe.
Yeah, well, we always have personal targets and targets as a team. I know we want to win every game as we can, but sometimes that isn't realistic. But we set out a goal this year to just have that aggression, the passion, the work rate, and we have like the ability of the players here to go and win us games. As long as we have that core base, we know we have the ability to go and win games from that.
Yeah, finally then looking ahead to the weekend, Shelbourne coming to town, big game. How do you see it going?
Yeah, we're under no illusion how they are. That was a tough tough team to play last year. But no, we're looking for all 3 points yet again. We don't go into any game thinking we're going to lose because we believe that we can beat any team in this league on our day. Even Dundalk away as well. We're going to be looking to get 6 points. So either way, yeah.
Has JR been giving you the inside track on what Damien Duff might be planning?
No, not yet, but I'm sure he will. Obviously, he played under him quite a lot last year, so he knows what it's like. But yeah, we'll see.
Reece, thanks for coming on. We'll chat again soon.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much for having me.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland or tweet us at Extratime News.
And that was the voice of Reece Hutchinson from Sligo Rovers. Thanks, Reece. Before I finish up for another week, just a quick run through the fixtures this weekend in the SSC Electricity. Starting with the Premier Division. Sligo Rovers take on Shelbourne, as mentioned previously. Bohemians, Dundalk, Derry City, St Pat's Athletic, Galway United, Waterford, and Shamrock Rovers, Drogheda. In the First Division, Derry take on Treaty United, Finn Harps Athlone, Bray Longford Town, Wexford Cove Ramblers, and Cork City UCD, all on Friday night. Oisin Langan will be back with the Extratime.com League of Ireland Voice Notes podcast on Saturday morning, so please do check it out. In the meantime, thanks to Oisin, thanks to Donal, thanks to Reece Hutchinson, and thank you for listening, and we'll chat to you all next week.